Back, everybody, to another episode of Leading Crypto on this hump day. Crown said it best that everybody got humped yesterday, for sure. Uh, Going into this week, right? We knew that this was going to be an exceptional week. We had Magic Internet Money, notating that the one-to-one FIP time was November 7th for quite some time. We had the election. The news always kind of wraps around these times, but it's always interesting to see how it unfolds. But we had an election day yesterday, and we have our CPI data report coming in tomorrow. Probably something else along the lines coming out Friday. Who knows? We've had a ton of news disruptions between FTX and Binance and Sam Bankman-Fried and all these things going around. Very chaotic for most, right? So we're going to take a deep dive, taking a look at Bitcoin, of course. We're going to take a look at order flow and open interest. We're going to take a look at some things as they occurred yesterday as well, and kind of go over some of the trades that were available at the time. Many get really worried and kind of don't feel that you can trade during these time frames, and that's just not the case. We're also going to cover Ethereum. I'm going to take a look at FTT, which hopefully you watched the last two videos yesterday and the day before, because we covered FTT basically, in pretty decent detail, very simply, with the only levels you needed to be paying attention for, which did come in pretty clutch, I guess, if I may say so. And then we're going to take a look at Solana as well, right? Because those two are definitely the top two fears and worries in the street right now. So if all that sounds good to you, be sure to like and subscribe to this channel. Be sure to watch it all the way through. And let's get to the most important question of the day, which is Max, Magic, how are you gentlemen doing this afternoon, morning, evening, wherever you are in this beautiful world?
Very good, man. Very good.
I think better than most.
Yeah, unfortunately, for sure. But yeah, so let's just jump right into it. I mean, you guys have been, like the marathon men. You've been on like 24-hour streams in the trading group. But let's see what's going on.
Yeah, let me clean this up a little bit. We've got quite a bit to unpack today. A lot of you guys were probably in my stream prior to this. We did like a little group only live stream just to get everybody's heads right. Make sure we're all looking at the same levels. So you really don't have any traditional horizontal levels down here to work off of unless you scroll way left, right? And they have been respected. So one of the levels we've been talking about for a while, I think a lot of people have actually in the space, 17,147. That was the daily right here. You have another one just beneath it, right? So 15,972 just beneath there. So those are your immediate areas to be paying attention to, along with this prior wick low. Okay, so I'll let Max go through this move up yesterday. Or I guess technically it was so fast we'd have to scroll back like this and look at a 5 minute, but we came into this zone. You guys know we were looking for if you did not swing fail these highs, this is like a take profit for the long, because we did get the SFP of the low here. Did make a new low, came all the way back up to the 12 M1 at 20,688. And then this is where I took my short. I took all my profits off the table at like 19K, 19,200. And that's regrettable because, it did this, but no one knows it's going to do that. I just should have left some to run. But I got to take it to the upside and to the downside. I only took it to 20,000 on the upside. I didn't try to get all of it because I just didn't trust the up move. But once it got up here as fast as it did, because this is a 5 minute chart, this is a really easy short. And now you've got some really key levels to play off of. ATAS is a platform I use quite a bit. And these are the levels I gave last night. It was 18,000, I think it was 750 or 712 and 18,680. And if we pull those up on the chart now, you can actually see that we've come up and we've back tested the range. So you've come up on the bounce, reclaiming the 17.5 low, back tested your range, rejected off, and now you're backfilling some of this wick, which did have a strong buying tail. Like, I'll let Max go through that as well. So this was a good move off the low. You got that initial rejection you thought you would. So this was a great trade if you took it. Then from there, you just have some really easy levels. This was one Max pointed out before the drop. He pointed out, and we all kind of concurred that even though it's there, we'll probably make a new low if we get that low. But it did play a factor last night. It gave actually a decent trade right here. It was the 18,009 October low. So this is your previous month low, giving a really nice trade off of it into here. I believe the VWAP is up here right? So now you've got your VWAP coming in. So you're just trading this back to the VWAP, let it do its thing. And you're really not trying to do too much with this because there's some indecision. And so a lot of people want to know, are we going lower or are we not? And I think that you have to zoom out to look at that. I was just talking to the group about it. So we'll share some of that analysis here, just some of the mindset stuff, because it's really, really important. And I'll get rid of this SR box for now. Maybe I will. We'll get rid of all this stuff just because we just don't need it right now. So if we go out to like a monthly time frame, right? And get rid of these. Well, I'll leave these up. This is something I've been sharing with the group, that we actually have not touched a yearly deviation on the VWAP in quite some time. You can see we're just in between. So a lot of indecision here. So this is either going down to 13K guys or up to 22.8, right? That's what we know. At some point that's going to happen. And you can see historically these get highs and lows really, really well because it's such a high time frame tool. So seeing that and knowing that, the next move down, once we get confirmation, we're looking for 13K, and we have horizontal levels there. To the upside, we're looking for 22K, which I think is, a lot of people are gonna be like, that's obnoxious to talk about, but I'll get into why I think that here in a second. You've got to really kind of be patient with this price action. This isn't a place to be, running out, hurrying and buying, or running out and hurrying and selling. Main reason being is this is your monthly low, your overall monthly low for 2022. So the 2022 low previous to this one. It's going to take time for this to set up shop here. There were instances in the past where we did very similar things and people ignored it. SFP, the monthly low, this right here, even if you'd bought here, you were very happy because this is inherently a capitulation. Now, we talked about this on the daily as you zoom out, right? You've got this pseudo head and shoulders, which I deleted the trend line for it. You've got something like this coming in right here. And you spent time down here after you actually broke the pattern down. So this is a pretty big pattern from like January all the way out to March. So this is 3 months, a fairly good size top, right? And so one would expect a good size move. You spent 3-4 days before nuking. So that's why I say it's really important to keep your head on straight here. You may not get continuation right away. You have to be able to zoom out and say, okay, am I getting a weekly closure? Am I getting daily closures? And then will those bleed into the monthly? Will those bleed into the 3 month? You have to be able to look at the chart that way, because if you just look at it from the monthly right now in the 3 month or the 6 month, you can see that it looks like you're going much, much lower. So that can still happen. It can also take time. Nothing has to go down in a straight line. Even though these are 3 month candles, they look like they're straight down. If you zoomed out, you can see that it was a very painful process down. And I said this a while ago where I said, everybody goes, what's max pain? Everyone's like, it's, if it shoots up and wrecks all the bears. And I think that is really, really misguided, because you need to have something as a catalyst. And the catalyst on that would be a Fed pivot in that instance, right? That was the catalyst. It's very clear a Fed pivot is not coming. Like they've been open and honest about what they're going to do, and they've actually been more aggressive than they alluded to to get things going, right? So until we get that, things like, and I'm going to use the term melt up, and that's not to throw any shade at anyone. It's just the best word for it. It's just not relevant, right? You can't front run a pivot like that. You can speculate and say, I need to be prepared for it, but you can't marry that idea just because you think that there's an overall, amount of puts in the market or, people that are leveraged short. So you can't fall in love with that. So the most painful thing was sideways and down, right? Big sell-off, bull market's not dead yet. We haven't broken structure. We're coming up to back test for us 47,707. What's it do? This was a great short area for us here and right here, and even right here at 32K. But these really long sideways ranges where it comes back up gives people just enough hope. And we've all seen it. You guys know how the space flips over like $2,000 moves at this point. What did it do? It suckered them back in. They were all conditioned to up only. They never sat there and just said, I need to trade the range. I can't fall in love with these ideas. And now it's just lower and lower. And it's still failing to do anything bullish. And we've talked about this publicly. Lower high, lower high, lower high. What was the level we had to see reclaimed to be bullish? We said 20,688 to 20,904, which for all intents and purposes was a very good barometer of what we needed to see hold as support. And that's what we kept saying. It has to hold as support. And one of the scenarios I went over with in the group was that if we came back above this level and then gave it back up, it would look bad, mainly because you had single prints below you. Those are leading you straight down to like 19K. And then at that point, with the TPO POC there, you're giving that up. You have to be looking at this as like, that's not good. You're going to fill in some of the NPOCs at like 18.7, 18.4. And now you've made a new low, which is something that, again, and I hate saying this, we've talked about this. I keep going back to this. We've been talking about this for 3 months. It's just, you can only talk about it so long. This low came in on the weekend, right? This is a Saturday low. If you go back and hit Bitcoin's price from the CME era, look at the lows that come in. They're not on the weekend. They're when traditional markets are open. They're when traditional buyers are available, larger money, right? So it was widely regarded that, we were going to take this low. It was just a matter of when. And it happened to come in on a fib time date that I'd been giving out since, God knows when, basically, since the top almost, because we're looking for the 1-to-1. That's something that publicly I debuted on Debate Crypto. So that's tomorrow at 6:30 p.m. Central Time. You guys should watch that. I'll be on there. June 14th was the date I was on there, and I gave November 7th, and I continued to stick with that date throughout the show, saying if we're going to get lower prices, it's going to come in Q4. And we're in Q4, and now we're getting that. So up above the level, back down. Where do we go from here? We zoom out and you look at the high time frames. This is why I say it's really important that you have to have these levels mapped out, but also a plan. You look at these on like the high time frame. This looks like it wants to dip all the way down to 13,880. That's the next support, in my opinion. While we could swing fail this low, that's something you have to be aware of. Like, you could come down here, take this low, and then reclaim it and move up. You may not even take the low. It was a good buying tail, but there's nothing in the chart saying that we won't right now. And we haven't done anything inherently bullish to make me think we're going to get back in the range. If we get back in the range, though, this is where you have to keep your head on straight. You could spend days down here doing nothing and then dump, right? And people will say, well, it's failing to push down, so it's inherently bullish. And they may end up being right on that, but it's a coin flip when you take that mentality. They have nothing to back that up. They're just guessing. You need to see some key levels regained. And those key levels for me are coming in right here at the gold pocket, okay, right at the TPO POC. We look at our structural levels that we were just talking about. Like, do we have any structural levels here that matter? You have a monthly at 19,411. You have a daily just beneath it. I think I deleted the daily, but that's okay. We don't need it. But for that, then you can just box it off, guys. I mean, be very, very simple. If we can get back above this box between 19,150 and 19,411, all those talks of this being the low, they become pretty realistic, in my opinion. And I think that this being such a fast move down does see a quick move back up into this region. And if you crack that, I honestly think if you get back above this box and you're living there, like holding as support at 19,411, we'll call it 19,500, that is going to be a pretty good indication that I want to look for a range rotation. I'm looking for 22K at that point. I'm going to ladder out of those positions if I take positions, but that's the bullish case. But you can't be bullish on the asset until it does something. Price action trumps all. You hear that all the time, and this is what they mean by it. So be patient. Zoom out, guys. Weekly chart. Are we holding 19,567 on a weekly, right? Or 17,567 on a weekly? Does it transition into the bi-weekly, the monthly? Are we closing back inside the range? Did we do something that makes me bullish? Or am I just saying, well, it hasn't dumped yet and I thought it would dump by now, so now I'm bullish? You can't take that approach. That is going to get you wrecked. So if you're DCAing here because you want to just buy here because that's your plan, you've got a 10-year plan, whatever it may be, by all means, this is a discount, obviously. However, it can be discounted more, guys. It can still go lower. So keep that in mind. Doesn't mean don't buy here. It just means, that's up to you. That's your risk tolerance. Me personally, I'm not adding any fresh positions here. In fact, I was pulling capital off of exchanges pretty much yesterday and today. And I'll continue to do so because I'm going to only leave on there what I'm trading with, and I'll hedge accordingly. My hedge is still open from 40K, which is a very large position for me, which, kind of scares me a little bit, but it is on Bybit. To me, that's the one I trust the most. They've never had any issues. They processed my withdrawal within 10 minutes today, and it was, a substantial amount of money. So not too worried about it. So if there's questions, guys, the chat is open. All you got to do is put a question in there. I hope this was somewhat useful for you. I'm trying to keep this as level-headed as possible so that you guys are, making good decisions, because that's ultimately all you have to do. I say this often, and I used to say it on TikTok all the time. You don't have to know what's going to happen. You have to sit back with yourself, have a plan, and say, okay, if this happens, then I do this. I have to make good decisions. If you can do that, you'll be successful in this market, right? So not going to touch on much else here. I'm going to let Max get into it. I don't know what he wants to cover, but I woke up late today, so that's apologies there. So I'm not quite as in tune this morning, but hopefully you guys found this useful. So there he is. Look at that guy. That beautiful
big screen, yeah? Okay.
Yeah, on the big screen.
So I'm going to go over pretty much what happened yesterday from yesterday's live stream. So in the live stream, we were literally talking about this SFP from this level here and also from the start of the day, because yes, though it took it by 0.5 cents, sorry, by 50 cents here, it wasn't enough. But when you came down, you had a huge volume spike, 23 million there. And on the buyback, we were saying in the stream, okay, you're getting your buyers, you're getting your open interest increase, and you have your imbalances. It's what you want to see, especially when you have stagnant open. I say stagnant, it's negative 1.4 million, but compared to the delta there, one could make a case for positions changing hands. It was just such a good long. Honestly, it was great. Rode it all the way up. And where did we come to? Literally, hats off to Magic. The box that he gave us all in the stream, it was literally magical, honestly. I wish I'd have played it more. I completely closed out of my position at the VWAP, but made good money, but gave it back. I say gave it back. The market effectively took it back by the drop that continued. But yeah, I closed all out at the VWAP when I saw a ton of shorts enter, and yeah, we started to regain. So regret on that one for sure. But the move down was very strong from the order flow standpoint. A lot of selling taking place. You didn't really get any buybacks, really. But when you came to the low, so I've marked out the level, which was the low. It was a difficult one, specifically looking at the open interest. It didn't really give anything away. You had your volume spike, okay, which is always something that you want to see when coming into such areas of liquidity. You had a huge volume spike, and that's kind of the reason that you could have guessed that this one where we did take the low a little bit and then came back up wasn't going to be the full deal. There's no way that for such a significant low, it just does and I'm talking about this wick here. There's no way that it's only going to do that when it's such a significant low. There's going to be so much more liquidity beneath it. And you had that huge volume spike down. And huge wick. Now, I would actually say that the best way to trade this was simply looking at the wick. The fact you had a big wick down and you did get a buyback, because that candle actually ended with positive delta. Granted, it was negative open interest, but it's going to be that way when you have such a huge sell-off and a massive amount of stop losses, liquidations, you name it, taking place. The fact you had positive delta on that, it's it's surprising. It is surprising. That's the only real thing to say about that. But 14K trades took place in that 5-minute candle. That's a huge amount. I don't think I've ever really seen that amount before in a 5-minute candle. That's huge. But yeah, the buyback, you had buying imbalances, but the fact that delta was positive, that was really your entry. If you were going to take an entry there, it was a risky ass trade. I know some people in the group took it. Fair play, to be fair. That's all I can really say there. But as of right now, I am on the 5 minutes, so I have to zoom out a little bit, and I'm actually going to hide the marked levels because they do get in the way a little bit. So we now have two lows. Actually, we're just taking it. So since the low on Bybit, I know Twin called out on Binance, we actually have bullish divergence, which is interesting. And the reason it's interesting, the fact we have it bullish divergence to this low in particular, is the fact that, well, one, it's a big wick divergence, so it's iffy, and delta is leading until it isn't. So while you have that bullish divergence, it's actually stating that the delta is, people are expecting lower, and until you start to reclaim some of the levels, price follows the expectation. So unless you do start to reclaim some levels, the VWAP is probably a good start. It isn't. It isn't to the big wick. I thought in the post that you sent it was. Apologies. But anyhow, on Bybit we have bearish divergence, which you've got, it's conflicting there. So it's difficult. And as Twin did say in the group, you do get it all the time. But looking at it, I would actually, the fact that you've made this low here, and you had a huge shorts enter the market there. I imagine they're probably out by now. But the fact that you've got these two lows here, you've got buyers here in this candle here, 3.8 positive delta there, another positive open interest there on these candles here with all positive delta and open interest. I don't think we're going to not take these lows here in particular. So 17K retest possibly, but then that causes another issue. So I'm going to go to another chart for now. But yeah, I'm definitely expecting these lows to be taken before any move up, because there's going to be a huge amount of liquidity. Because I imagine that anyone that did take a long up here, they are not putting their stop losses below that, especially with the current market. They're going to be putting them below this low, trailing stop loss, what have you. They're going to be putting it below here, especially with the current state of the market. So there's going to be a lot of liquidity down there. So when you do come down and take it, you want to see that stagnant open interest to take the trade, or you want to see trapped traders and them to be trapped. They have to actually be trapped for you to then want to take the trade. But yeah, I think the stagnant open interest is certainly going to be the one to look for on that SFP. If it doesn't come, the trade doesn't come, you don't take the trade. But yeah, the bearish divergence is certainly playable, but again, it's leading. And to be fair, I actually took on stream last night. I literally a gamble. There was some divergence. I can't remember where it was. Where were we streaming? Back here. So we were streaming while it was all, well, just after it all kicked off, see if we could get anything. I actually traded a divergence trade, and it did stop me out, but it was only a small position size. So it is what it is. But yeah, expecting these lows to be taken here. So, maybe the divergence trade plays out. Another interesting thing that I want to talk about, because it pairs with the area that Magic gave to reclaim, which is like the range val. Now, I have the range val from the TPO template on EXO when you can merge profiles, and I've gone all the way back to the start of this range, and it pretty much lines up exactly with TradingView. It's 18769. So if I go to EXO and we go to the TPO chart, very interesting. Granted, it's not on the exact dot. This isn't the range value area low, by the way. This is what I'm considering this single print to be. So the single print certainly starts, if you're going from the higher end, at 19,187. So that's where the single print is. That's from the lows that we made, which gave us the swing failure pattern trade. And that goes down, in my opinion, because the way that I trade single prints is if a candle closes and then it continues on with its trend, I will allow the single print to continue, whereas the software, it has to be one candle. So I prefer to trade them this way. It gives you an earlier entry if something's going on. And this time it lines up perfectly with the range low. So, if you start to make your way into that 18,739 region or the range val, and don't reject, because we, arguably rejected from the range val there, which isn't the best thing. But if you were to get back in this section, you could look to trade it at least to the close of the single prints. Another thing while looking at the TPO chart, this is on the 50 tick. In fact, let's have a look on the 1 tick. See if it is the same. It is the same, and in fact, it's worse, I think. Let's go back to the 50s because it's easier. So 50 tick. Everyone that's watched the TPO video, what do you see in this profile? We have the time point of control up here, and this is the volume point of control, which we know to be bearish. So it's not looking good, bruv. It's not looking good. It really isn't. But, this could certainly change by the end of the day. But it'll just mean the time point of control comes down here and match it. And it probably will in the next hour, considering where we are. But yeah, it's really not looking the best if looking at the volume compared to the time on this profile in particular. So more reason that I'm expecting them lows to be taken as we get the move down now on the coin. But yeah, that's all I've really got. Keep them single prints in mind. Mark them on your charts. Mark the range value area low if not. But yeah, I think the trade from here, if any trade that you want to take from now, it has to be this swing failure pattern from these lows. That's the one that I'm looking for. It's going to be, if it's given to us, it's going to be the easiest trade that we see here. You actually did have, just as the New York pre-session hadn't started yet. So just before the New York pre-session started, you did get a swing failure pattern here, where you had a huge wick above it, ton of buying. So it's like the opposing side when you're not getting the stagnant open interest. This time you had a ton of buyers enter, and then I say they got trapped, but there was only, if you're looking at the actual footprint, okay, we're getting that move down now. You had the buying amounts at the top, but there was some buying, in the middle here. But ultimately, they were trapped after the swing failure pattern. As soon as that candle closes, if you're waiting for candle closes, short, stop loss above the high. It's only, what's that, like maybe 1.5%, and you'd be covered. You'd be safe for whatever was to occur after. And we've actually just taken the low, so let's see what we're getting. Volume's meh. I'd have preferred the volume to be more than this candle. So this candle's got 40 million. How long have we got left? We've actually got 3 minutes left. So let's see. But yeah, no stagnant open interest there on that one. It's coming in now, actually. But you have to wait for the low to be regained.
I was going to say, it's going to take it. If it doesn't, I'd be shocked.
What, you mean the actual low?
Yeah, the overall low. If it doesn't take it, I'd be shocked.
Yeah, another thing to mention. So when you had the huge buying tail that we had yesterday while we wait for it to be taken, you don't want to see this get retested for the low to be
strong.
Perfect. Yeah, strong. Yeah. The fact it's been retested and we're in it, it's going to be taken. Well, looks like right now. Let me put my markers back on so I can see it. There we are. 16,800. Interesting that it's to the exact dollar of the 100 mark as well.
Yeah. And a lot of people have been talking about 16K for some time. I always said that if we hit 16K, I still expect a nuke through the level and go to 13. I just don't see anything there. So this is their chance to prove me wrong. We'll see. But yeah, I did have some stuff I was going to cover when you're done as well, while we're waiting on this. So
do you want to go over it?
Yeah, we got a minute while this is, doing its thing. So
I'll shout.
Yeah, I'll hear your alert. I'm sure you've got one set for the low.
I'll mute myself.
So the BLX guys, ironically, if you guys watched the last public video I made over Fibonacci time and the high, I actually showed you guys how to find this via trend-based fib and via negative fibs and via fib expansions, how to find the high and the timing of it. And this was the box, right? One thing I also point out is the volume. Okay, so look where our volume spike came up to. We still have not expanded below or above our regression, basically. This is a regression of volume from the 20K high, meaning that volume has been declining since we hit 20K, basically. Well, technically, it's this low here, but you get what I'm saying. So this is a very high time frame look at it and saying that the biggest move is still coming, right? Whether that's going to be a move up or a move down, but this can... we just had a huge volume spike. This can remain low, but it can also make another higher volume spike. And I think if that's the case, it's going to be from a nuke, but we don't really know what's going to happen. So just remember that this still has, room to go, so to speak. The only other thing I was going to talk to you about is we talked about this yesterday on stream. We covered this, and main reason being is we're now on time. And again, we were just talking about 19,150 to 19,411 getting reclaimed if we're going to see any kind of, retrace up into like 22K an attempt, right? Look where our 1-to-1 is, the one we left on here. We said we were going to leave that one on there because it was serving as support so well on like a weekly and monthly basis. Look where we're at. We're beneath it. So this is our new trend, obviously. I'll get rid of the 886 here. That's coming in at that 13,511, right where your yearly VWAP is. We were just talking about that. So if you reclaim this, things start to look okay. If you don't, this is our goal, or not our goal, but this is not a high probability, I would say, but the logical target. Logical target says down here, if you wanted to divide this up, you guys should all have this fork. You could divide this up into like the 0.75, and all this is doing is just creating a separate channel. Now you've got a new EQ saying that really the next pit stop is about 14.2 to 13.8 probably. That's also where the single print closes on ATAS, and then your next target's going to be here. I prefer just to keep it on as a 50% only and just look at it as an overall channel. You can see how well this is getting things. So again, this comes down to zooming out and saying, okay, even if I'm late to the move, let's say it reclaims 19,139 and rockets past here and everyone's left out of the move because this is still a bullish event, then it's okay to be a little late. There's a quote out there. It's talking about, being a little bit late to the move is just securing direction. It's a safer trade basically is all it's saying. So, a lot of this comes down to just planning. And when fast moves happen, because they're often quick, you've thought through the scenarios and you know where it matters the most. That's when it becomes actionable, so to speak. But that's really all I had on that. And to everyone that told me that Matic wouldn't hit these levels, you're welcome. If you guys were in here anytime in the last day or two, I've told you I'm not interested in Matic until we're closer to 80 cents. Here you go. We're getting down there. Same with QNT probably.
QNT.
Yeah. What did I say about this?
Quickly. Sorry. Let me just share my screen quickly. Because it's something
not
funny, but upsetting. This guy here just 100x the top and got liquidated.
Oh.
Less than 3 seconds later.
Bro.
There's his long, 882K, 100x, and there's his liquidation, negative 750K. Someone's just lost 750K. Damn. Trying to long the SFP.
Oh, what a poor guy. I shouldn't say that. It's stupid.
But there was no reason to do it. You didn't have, well, he's probably not looking at the order flow. You had no...
He's probably following some guy on Twitter, and that guy told him the low was in.
You had no stagnant open interest. Trading the SFP and just got wrecked. That's why you need order flow for the SFPs. But yeah, how upsetting for that kid. But yeah, sorry, I'll give it back.
He goes, liquidated me right now. LOL. Hopefully that's not true. Yeah, I'm almost done here, and I'll let CVO cover ADA. But we're talking about QNT real quick. And sorry, CVO. Again, guys, speed bump. This is the area we're most interested in. And the only reason I say most interested in is because we have an alert set here, basically, right? You just set an alert. And from there, you can gauge the reaction. You don't have to buy here. Again, kind of like Max was alluding to earlier, he said, if we get the SFP and it gives what we need, we have a trade. If it doesn't give us what we need, we don't take the trade. Because if Bitcoin nukes down to 14K or 13K, I'll guarantee you this comes back to probably like $63, maybe lower. So it could retest all the way into these lows. Just keep that in mind. But that's all I've got. I'm not going to go on too much. I'm going to let him get to ADA and the other charts that he's got for us.
No, that's great. The way you just said, the most important part of this chart, we got an alert there.
It's true.
TA off. I just put an alert here, and that's the most important part. That's all you need. Yeah. Crypto Sniper said that person got liquidated by him, not him getting liquidated.
Oh yeah, no, good to hear, man. Good to hear. Better him
what
than
else
you.
Was there? This is something else that was funny here too. The real red wave. Nope, not that one. But we did nail the levels on the way down. Thank you. It was something like the red wave. Here it is. Cracked me up. The real red wave was in crypto yesterday. Oh man, it's not not laughing at obviously anybody that is getting hurt, but it's that is a funny one. So
it's kind
of all right. So Cardano, Debate Crypto is asking, right? And shout out to Debate Crypto in here. Everybody watching, got 33 people in here. Not sure how many likes. Be sure to like the video if you guys are enjoying this content. Is ADA going to 20 cents? So one thing that we like to do, right, is kind of correlate the entire market around one another. Magic, by the way, do you want to, at the end of this, do you want to touch on SPX at all?
Yeah, I'll do
Okay,
it at the
because
end.
there's an interesting thing I was noting on the SPX too. So it'd be interesting. You kind of been covering a good amount. We've got that one level to be kind of looking for, but it's interesting to note that the market yesterday was kind of pushing up while crypto was pushing down. So I'm sure the decoupling notes will be coming out about that. But Cardano, right? So one simple area that we've been looking for, and as always, right, while we were remaining in this range, you were targeting, some of the volume targets in this region. You got the, yada, yada, yada. I had to throw one in there in the last couple weeks here. But that was what we were looking for while we were within the range, right? And this is what's so important about, investing, trading, having that plan in place and, just not having to be married to catching the exact bottom and the exact tops and all this and that. But when we lost this region right here, right, which was 41.5 cents, this is where your stop loss should have been, right? It protected you from all this downside. And then you get the opportunity, realistically, if you zoom into a lower time frame, this is where you look for the back test and then you can start shorting, looking for some other targets, right? But this is on even just a spot idea, right? If you're looking at a long-term investing plan, losing this level was pretty important. And even just kind of zooming out a little bit, we'll take a look at the daily. I'm looking at some short-term stuff here, but this region, as you can see, zooming out, we got clusters of, some support over here. Note that I only have one level really noted here, and it's the monthly down to like 14 cents, 13 cents in that region. And I'll come back to that here in a second. But that's really the only thing that matters, in my opinion, until we really reclaim that 41.5 cents, right? And I'll explain why. But you came down, right? You would have had your stop loss play. You either shorted this or just didn't get involved in this, right? This is a pretty decent, move to the downside that you really didn't want to be, dancing around with 20%, right? Only to come back and basically break even right around these levels. So most people that did, hold around this region, coming back here, you're, still not really doing anything different because you're probably hoping that, you come back up to where you bought in at, or you're going to continue higher, whatever the case may be. Like I said, most people aren't looking at the range data the same way we are. But you really didn't do too much around here. This is a 4-hour time chart, right? And even if you did, kind of buy into some of these back tests, reclaims in the short-term time frame on the range, your stop loss still would have been below the low. So you get a couple trades in, you get stopped out, whatever. And right now, what would we be looking at? So in the trading group, right? So I got the major overall high time frame range pulled up here. The other area we've been concerned with is last month's range. So that's this highlighted area, right? So what we did here, so in the shorter term, even though when we were living below this overall low here, the area to have been looking for was basically at 37 cents, got the reclaim there. And then what were you looking to do? Rotate the range in full. Now this is a little bit of a range within a range, so you got to start kind of compartmentalizing this, compartmentalizing how you want to look at it. But running it up to this region was a major take profit, right? So you see how we wicked up to that region, came back down, started living now back below the overall range. So you want to be paying attention for that. You get another run up once again. You could be looking at this in a couple ways, but at the end of the day, you're still really hitting your head on last month's range. So in short, you want to be looking for a couple things here. And one of them is the reclaim of the overall low. Then you take it up to the next level, which would be your first TP, in my opinion. Really, the first TP would be the point of control here. But either way, you got the take profit here at 43.8. And then if you claim that, then we'd be moving on, right? So, and that's how you would set all these things up. You got stop losses below your, either your entry or your next level support, however you want to look at it. Well, then you got this terrible thing, right? You don't want to see this, right? You got that, you got the back test, boom, down, rotate the range, once again, come up. You now back test the overall low once again. We got all the turmoil going on with Bitcoin and everything else in the market. And now we are living down even below, once again, the October range. So here in short for Cardano, you'd really want to see 37 cents, back living above that area. So 4-hour daily close, things of that nature, and then a tight stop loss, honestly. If you want to be a little bit more, safer play, get that confirmation, you're probably looking up towards about, realistically 41.5 cents, but 44 cents is your safer bet to start closing 4-hour, 12-hour, looking for that daily candle, and then transpiring from there, weeklies, things like that. Depends on your strategy, right? If you're looking for short-term plays or if you're looking to long-term hold Cardano, those would be the areas I'm looking for in the short term. Now, if at the moment, we're dropping out, we're back testing, we're looking down, Bitcoin could possibly come back down, sweep around those lows. You got Ethereum, which I'm going to get into that here in a second, which hasn't taken out the lows, which it might not, but we're going to take a look at that. The biggest reason, looking down to this monthly for Cardano, once again, looking at this on a daily time frame. And I really want to be clear on the idea that's like not saying like this has to happen. You do have the invalidation of this, which is starting to reclaim some of these key levels, just kind of how Magic alluded to with Bitcoin. Like you have to manage your positions essentially, whether that's long term or short term. So if you're a long term investor, to me it's I got two spots on the chart, right? And one of them is all the way down here is the next buy level. Otherwise, I'm looking to start acquiring heavily if the market turns around, which it may, and you start living back above 44 cents. That's the safest play, in my opinion. Biggest reason down at this monthly right here is also because we have yet another. These have been really nailing around, and this is one of the things I wanted to touch on with the SPX as well. Is you got an untapped yearly key level, so a high time frame average of price that generally with a high statistical target gets hit is right below that monthly level as well. So this is all the way down at like 13 cents. Does not have to happen, right? Doesn't have, definitely can be something we leave behind and continue onward and upward. But at the moment, where we are on the chart, losing basically every other support, this is the next major area for me. And this is
you're going to enjoy this. I agree with you. So I have an ADA chart. And if you remember, that was one of the ones I updated back in December when we got together a year ago. I've not updated this chart. I haven't
almost
updated
anniversary.
This chart. Yeah, I have not updated this chart in a year. And I'll show you what it looks like. Well, if you're an ADA fan, that's it. This is the only levels I had on my chart. You can see where we're at. And I've got one box on there to the downside, which I believe I even told Mac Lorden that back in the day that I would be looking for like 13 to 8 cents. And it's just a matter of time. So, yeah, pretty rough. I would agree with you. I think 13 cents is probably something that could happen. The whole market's going to be absolutely handled. It's going to all be handled at that point. Everything's going down if that's the case. So kind of like what CVO was just saying, if you guys were paying attention, he's got the levels you need to reclaim to see something bullish. But if you don't get it, be patient, stick to your plan. I did play this area because 12M here, you had a really nice 12M level. If you zoom out, I remember this because it front ran it at first. I said, it's really odd that it front ran. It makes me think it's going to nuke through it. And it did. But this was the level I was looking for. And I believe it was just like a monthly swing failure pattern or something that was here that I noted with it to give it a box. But you go down the daily, you front run it. Now you finally hit it. And then you just nuke through it. Front run the level. Now you've hit it. Barely any bounce. Now you're back at support already. So not the best sign in the world, but again, remain neutral. But for me, that I agree with you 100%. Looking like those levels right there. So that's all you guys need.
Yeah, and that's we're gonna dive into FTT in a second, and it's really just we're not putting any of this out here, obviously, in like starting to get super bearish at the lows or anything like that, right? This is just a level-headed approach, right? Being neutral. The biggest issue in the market, that you just saw everybody, and hey, I was one of the people last year that were calling for higher prices at the end of the year, but I also had invalidation points, right? When we cracked back below 60K, I knew that I was wrong, and I adapted, I pivoted. Most people cannot do that, and the majority are literally one way or the other. It's overly bearish or it's overly bullish. They miss moves because of it, right? They blindly set themselves out to miss moves, and just as simple as that, right? And everybody that was very, very vocal and very overly confident, speaking in absolutes, so to speak, that the bottom was in June and this and that, got humbled yesterday very crazily. And if you are going over the top, to the case where it's impossible that we're going to go lower, now the fact is that when you do pop lower, now your analysis or your credibility or whatever the case is, right now, we're all just people on the internet, so don't take anything we say as financial advice. But when you start to look at something else, now it's like, oh, well, you were the guy that was like, oh, this is only going this way. You have to be neutral in that sense and just be, willing to adapt to the price action and understand that, like Magic, I give him kudos, man, because, there's the term, he gets it right a lot. It's not like he gets anything right in the sense, like he knows what the turning points are, right? And he's identifies them, and he can, contribute to those on a high time frame, on a low time frame. One of the best, not even one, the best I've ever seen in the business. And it's because he keeps a neutral outlook. His number one mantra is, don't be bullish, don't be bearish, take the best trades. And that really is what it comes down to. And that comes down to in the sense of long-term investing. I mean, it doesn't have to be day trades, short-term this and that. Looking at this in a long-term position, imagine how many people will be trying to catch a knife right here. And this is, if this is had, big keyword if, but this is another 61% drop. I mean, this is massive. And one of the reasons I wanted to bring up the SPX is because right now, I'm really paying attention to a lot of these, especially these untapped yearly key levels, right? And the SPX has one of those below us, about 15 to 20% from where we are right now. And unlike the markets in crypto, the stock market didn't have that pullback quite yet, and maybe it doesn't, but we'll see how it goes. But is it getting it right now? Okay, I was gonna say, if that occurs, then a lot of this I feel like will probably come to fruition. But either way, as simple as it is, if you're in the market right now in Cardano, and you're thinking to yourself, should I sell here? Should I buy here? It's a tough decision, and it really comes down to you, right? Because you puking the lows, right? That's one thing, we always talk about as well. If you've held from all these areas down to here, puking the low, because this could very well turn around and just claim these levels and off we go. The plan has to be that though, right? You risk right now being below these areas that there's a possible 60% drawdown right now. You are at risk of that right this moment. Otherwise, say if you exit your position, you have to be paying attention for the reclaim of these areas, and you'll miss out on, 10, 20% and whatever the case is, right? 10 to 20% exactly. So you're either at risk of losing 60% or at risk of missing out on 20. And that's really what it has to come down to, right? So just really wanted to kind of hammer in that idea that this doesn't have to happen, but right now probabilities say, until we start claiming these levels again, that this is in the cards. So hope that makes sense. All right. So Cardano was not even on my docket today, but I'm glad you brought that up, because that is, one that I have covered quite often. And, like I said, it's just one of those things where while we were within the range, we had our upside targets, things changed, right? So, and that's what you have to be able to adapt to. It's not getting married to a certain idea. You really, you don't want to get married to the company itself. You've seen even just things in the, the traditional markets, Apple, Amazon, these and that, they've had major corrections in the past, and, it really doesn't correlate to the company itself sometimes. And it's just price action, man. We could really not even touch on any news. And honestly, we for the most part, we don't. And Magic November 7th, none of that was based on news. You know what I mean? It just, everything he puts out here, every single major fib time this year has correlated to a Fed meeting, a CPI release, and all this was put out 2 years ago when we were just printing money still. So it's just how the markets are designed, I suppose. So we're going to take a look at what ones did I put on there. So Solana, it's FTT. Let's take a look at FTT, right? This is a big one. So I'm going to rewind the clock a little bit here to basically yesterday and the day before. So we were looking at literally just this. These were the only levels you needed essentially. And just making sure. Can you guys still hear me on here?
Can hear you, man.
Okay, I was gonna say my internet looked like it was failing, but for FTT, this was as simple as it got. Right, had an overall range here. This literally backs it up all the way to 2021. This is very similar to Bitcoin's range, right? That we basically rooted around for all of 2021. One major thing we were looking at was that the highest amount of volume came in at the low here, right? So this is the value area low. This is your point of control. Losing that would be a double whammy. You would not want to see that, right? And if that was the case, then the next available target was going to be your untapped monthly key level down here. This is your global range. So this is the overall price action from history of FTT. And then you got the point of control right down here. I'm actually going to notate that right now, right? So overall volume target up here in the current area, overall volume target basically for the entirety of this price action here. Lose $22, right? We were looking at this yesterday, and you had at least, just to get the back test of this, value area high / untapped yearly key levels. This is a high time frame average of price. This was the entire average of price for FTT for over a year. This would be an 80% drop if had. You had a couple levels to the upside. Once again, invalidation here. This is why this is so important. This is something that Cardano could very well see, right? And the pop-up news, right? Like the out of nowhere, I don't know, Charles Hoskinson steps down CEO, whatever, the news catalyst that you just don't expect to happen, and it just comes out of nowhere 2 days later. It leads down to these things, right? FTT wasn't even really on the radar a week ago in that sense, but here we are. And I just want to kind of play this out on how it occurred, right? So you see how we got the bounce, whatever. You started losing $22 yesterday. Obviously, the entire market, it went through a disruption yesterday. But if you were in this asset, it's like where would we stop? And these levels right here are the only ones that would matter, in my opinion. And we can see here, move the stop sign on me. And we're going to go ahead and 10x that because I don't know how to get the X out. But either way, you can see how we literally lost that and we fell right down to where? Point of control, right? So had a brief little moment here at about $4, but straight up went straight to that point of control as far as that went. In the short term now, you can see that we're living back within this range. So you have a very large possibility that we could rotate this very well in full all the way back down towards $1.50. Is this a Terra Luna? Is this a type of event like that? Who knows? Any of this could happen at any time. The invalidation at this point, right, is to at the moment get back above this yearly key level, the 12M, about 448. Hold that, start holding that on a daily basis, and then we probably can challenge back into these regions. And very similar to anything else, you get the fast move down, and you can very well get a fast move all the way back up. So something to kind of consider. I know many people are not looking to invest in FTT, and this could very well be a total scam at this point. Who knows? That's kind of the risk we take with a lot of these assets, aside from the majors, and even them. Bitcoin could go totally tits up tomorrow. And it is what it is. But this was a very technical move because this is all we had. You had this huge impulse. We had a nice range being built out here. We lost basically the only support we had, and what's next? You're going to come down to your major targets, right? So. Personally, I was watching this as we were on stream yesterday, and I missed the $22 back test, and because of that, I didn't take the move, and I just wish I did because this would have been, this would have been a year's worth of trading activity right there, right? And it was just that, and even just down to the untapped yearly, which obviously is tapped now. That was an 80% move. Obviously, this fell over 90% basically in yesterday's downfall. So it'll be interesting to see how it moves after this. No guarantee, like I said, that we have to rotate all the way down to 150. It's really just paying attention to the levels and just reacting to the price movement there. So very, very interesting move. Some of the guys in the group, guys and gals, I know did take some of those trades and positions because, like I said, we were actually live. Magic and Max and I were backstage talking for a minute when all that was kind of going down. It was literally right after the stream yesterday. So once again, on a risk management side, I didn't take it because after I, noted it, it was already back down $19. It was too far away from a stop loss for me. So I didn't do it, but I wish I would have threw $500 or $1,000 at that and just YOLO'd it because that would have been the move. Solana is another worry at the moment, right? So I'm going to go over some levels on Solana here. Okay. So we had some pretty decent moves out of Solana, right? Very similar to Bitcoin, right? Basically came in, back tested the yearly key level right here. That was the overall high, all back at like 39K Bitcoin. This was an overall range rotation back in Q2 or Q1 of this year as well. And where are we now, right? So looking at the overall range that I've been covering for quite some time, we had this level right here. We, like I said, we were talking about buying in around this weekly and overall value area low right here, major target. And this is the thing, I like to, I know Magic does the same, Max probably as well, but like I front run some of these major areas just by a bit, just because depending on which exchange you're looking at as well, I put a lot of these out there. Bybit is really the number one exchange we actively trade on. This is on Binance, right? So the point of control could be a little different depending on what exchange you're looking at. But either way, the major level was, I haven't changed this to tapped, obviously, but this was the untapped quarterly, and it was right here at the point of control, as well as your golden pocket. So these three marks here were major take profit areas. And then, of course, you had the overall value very high if you were to come through and claim this. And this is one of those things about managing your position along the way, because you don't know if we're going to get, just the full on, just blow through. You make it to these levels. You had our monthly take profit 1, you had a take profit 2, 3. 4 here, and then you could have let the rest ride up here to the overall high if you got it, and then stop loss in profit, of course. Either way, this was the entry. Areas to consider taking some off the table. Once again, even if that's not a short-term trade, spot positions, whatever, what have you, take some off, put it to the side so you have some of that dry powder on the side. That's how you make it, regardless of it, even if you're down from the overall high. You had an opportunity here to, from this level to this level, make 44% difference, and then you could have bought back in either at this area or once again had that stop loss, alerted yourself, get out. Next major levels come down right where we're bouncing from right now, right? We got a daily level just below us here. This has been washed through. Nothing really special about this. Honestly, I think this is a pit stop more than anything. And then we're coming down to this untapped quarterly, in my opinion, right? This is about 1393. So we'll see how that, kind of plays out. As far as any upside, I mean, you really want to be paying attention to these two supports. And then for continuation, meaning that, bounce territory could come in around one of these two areas. We come back to the value area low. That'd be obviously a significant rally. 100% from the quarterly, 70% from the daily, but really nothing would have changed. You'd come in with another lower high. You'd really want to get back in the range, and that's your confirmation for continuation more for the upside there. So anyone that's looking for a possible entry, I mean, these two could very well offer that up. I would really be looking for this untapped quarterly, though, about 14. It's like $2 away from where we are right now. So, very likely that we get down to that region. But that's the world of trading, right? So you lose these levels here, and you got to cut your loss, and you got to really just reevaluate, and then once again be neutral, right? Don't just drop another 10% and think that you're you got to have this plan in place, because otherwise you're going to just see a move down and just buy back in, and that's catching the falling knife, right? That 100%. Trying to catch it at least. But yeah, so untapped quarterly, 1393, pretty important area in my opinion. What else was there? Those are the main two. Ethereum we're going to cover here in a second. The Doge position. I just want to kind of touch on that because this was an interesting one, right? So, covering the idea here was that we re-entered the range, major volume target, got up to this weekly. Why was this weekly important, right? Covered this quite a few times here. This was the overall BAT target, which was also the SFP of the recent high over here, meaning that anyone that entered a short position here, had their stop loss just above, got wicked out. Usually you get that right before you actually get the main move, which is exactly what happened. So major target for me came in at this B leg, golden pocket, this daily level. Obviously we wicked down a little bit lower. We can continue lower from here even, but for that trade, this was a short-term short. That's why I was looking at that. And honestly, I didn't just hold it only from here all the way to this region. I took 50% out right here. I put stop loss back in profit at this region right here to protect myself. No matter what, that was a winning trade. And then I let the rest ride down to here. So overall, captured a really nice percentage here. This was about a 44% move to the downside. I missed out on the remaining 6. And, could it continue lower? Absolutely. But for a 44%, short-term move, that was definitely a decent area to be playing with. So Doge did come into those targets. So we'll be interested to see. Right now, we're actually holding this range really well. Losing that area, obviously, we did start looking back lower again. So all eyes are really just on Bitcoin, Ethereum, things of that nature. Don't want to just point out that we're only going to go lower. Obviously, I'm really trying to hammer in the ideas of the levels that you really want to be paying attention for to give you that bias that okay, maybe we're going to go up. Not even maybe. It's just you claim those areas and we're moving onward from there. Doge at the moment hasn't lost any major structure, right? You're coming down into the range low. Technically at the moment, this is on a daily time frame as well. So you got wicks down below it, but at the moment you're still holding that. So you're just honestly just at your major target point for that that bearish bat. So see how things progress. Ethereum, I think we're going to get my final area today. Not final, obviously nothing's final. We actually do have a big final area that I wouldn't want to get to. I guess if Cardano makes it down to 13 cents, we might be coming down there for ETH. So let's just talk about the devil's basement for Ethereum, right? So the single levels to be paying attention for, to me, has always been 3 areas for the last several months, right? So this region right here, the overall golden pocket from low to high from our recent run-up, our Q2 point of control, which is about 12, 21, 12 to 14, depending on how you're pulling it. would exchange. Once again, this is on Coinbase, so we actively trade on Bybit, so some of the areas are a little different based on a few dollars here or there. But we have, I'm going to zoom this in actually to the 4 hour, because you can see how we're losing that major area now. So you've come down. We had a little back test there yesterday. Today we are living below the Q2 point of control. We're living below the VWAP. So realistically, the next pit stop is going to be this untapped daily. So 1,031 to about 1,000. I mean, the wick low right here comes in right at 1,005. I would imagine we probably dance around in between those two regions, give or take a few dollars, but that is on the cards for now, right? So range. So the three levels I'm looking at, and once again, this could be where we bounce off of and just take off from here. Don't necessarily mean we have to come to these levels. One thing I want to point out is that Ethereum has not taken out the June low, unlike Bitcoin. So that's something to kind of keep in mind. But the next stop to me is definitely going to be this untapped daily. And then the invalidation point of that, right, is basically coming back up and start living back above this point of control on a closing basis, at least 4 hours. And then from there, we take it up. This still says untapped. This was obviously a major target to the downside we were looking at as we came into this. And then across the board, taking it level by level. So untapped daily for now, high emphasis on this area, 1,037. I'm just going to point out the other two because we're here, but once again, not to put it out there like we're definitely going another 50% down or 60% down and all this. But if overnight we start losing these levels, then it's like, oh man, CBO was talking about these two today. What's the next one? There's only one other level on my docket. And once again, untapped yearly key level, $528. That comes into play if, big if, keyword 882 is lost, closing basis. That would be my major level. But for now, we're going to pay attention to how things react down here at the untapped daily if we get it, right? So, I mean, we're pretty close at this point. All things point to that at the moment, about $1,031. So, I think that's about all I got there. Really wanted to kind of hammer in on the FTT, the Solanas. Got a little Cardano in there. And I think I'm going to turn it over if you wanted to cover the S&P, just to kind of take a look at that now that we're actually getting a little pullback there as well, kind of correlate the three.
For sure. Shout out to Matt in the group as well. He nailed a harmonic. I'll bring that up here in a second. We talked about this. We said you are getting a bounce here. You're into resistance, though. If you recall, your quarterly range is coming in this region, the Q4. Boom. You're right into the range highs. What do you not do? We don't long in the range highs, guys. It's not a thing. Well, it is a thing, unfortunately. Just hopefully not a thing for anybody that follows us. You have a macro downtrend. You've come up. You've retagged just above the Q4. You failed to close above it. We said you got to close above this if you're going to even try to push back into these local highs. Did not do so, right? So the harmonic that I think Matt was on about, and we'll talk about this in just a second as well, a few other things, let me get rid of some of this stuff on the chart. I know there's quite a few levels on here, including these fibs. I'm going to get rid of the 0.5. It's just not necessary. We have the 618 beneath us, these local lows. Do they coincide with anything? You can see that you actually have a gap down here on the 4-hour chart. So there is a gap down here at the Q4 open and the gold pocket. Now, Matt was looking at this like, I wouldn't say crackhead time frame by any means, but low time frames, which you can day trade the S&P 500 like anything else, right? So you had a nice bat, I think is what he'd shared in the group. Make sure I've got the right low. It is this one, yeah. And you can see that this is going to be your pivot that you want to see hit. So just from a structural standpoint, you've already come into area number 1 right here. You're getting some support here. You can see that. It was prior support before. So if you lose that, we're basically targeting down to the C leg on this one. And then you could, turn on like a trend-based fib, whatever you want to do. You could do this if you wanted to. And you could say, all right, the 1-to-1, where does it come in at? I've got a really nice 1-to-1 at where, well, the low and the low essentially, and the local gold pocket we were just discussing is just beneath it. Me personally, if I was trading this, I would take one step back to the actual high here, and I would do something like this. If I was planning for more downside, I would be looking at it like an ABC. This looks like a pretty clear cut 3-wave, and so you may be looking at a move, something like this out to here. I would probably say that's pretty close to the 1-to-1, since that's where the last one was at. Now we pull our new 1-to-1, and you now have your zone of target if this continues lower. Yeah, right here into the 1-to-1. So that's how I'd be viewing it, which does line up with Bitcoin. So again, we're not pattern traders, but when a setup is given, and the reason this setup is active right here, right? So like, let's talk about this. Let's say that this was, you guys were actually trading this asset and it wasn't, the S&P. You could trade this. You've got your rejection, clean break of structure here, right here from the highs, right? And you know that you've got invalidation, because since this is a bat pattern, the beneficial part of these is that it's going to tell you where you're wrong and you're right if you're doing it correctly. So we know that if I was to take this trade, I just want to get my stop loss above X, because I know that then invalidates my idea and I'm no longer correct, and I have to be aware of that, right? So that's the trade. And then your setup looks like this, a little trading education on this one. And then we'll talk a little bit more about the high time frames. You can put it like right here, and you could say, I'm looking to take it to here, and then I'm looking to take it down to here, right? And so you got to look at that and you say it's a 5-to-1 risk to reward. It's worth your time, risk management, take profit one is hit. It's going to be a profitable trade, move your stop loss to entry, and then see if you can't ride it down to these levels, right? That said, we have broader targets. Yes, we do. Same with CVO. We both have similar targets for this one. You've got the untapped 12M1 beneath you, your overall local gold pocket, and an untapped 6-month level as well, between 32.3605 and 31.05. That is the area of interest. If we do timing on it, you can see that the timing on this has been absolutely wonderful as well. Local high, local low, local high. And we have timing for this coming in towards the end of November. So be interesting to see what kind of a pivot we get. Don't want to marry the idea that it has to go down to this box. It seems probable to me, but nothing in this world is guaranteed. So where do we change our mind? We would be changing our mind above the 12 or the 24M from 22 at 39.2341. And then we do have some fun to play with, right? We have this guy right here on like a weekly basis. And overall, we still need to see it reclaiming X and B, which is your Q1 low from 2021. Also going to be the value area low of this price action, right? So very clear levels to work off of. You clear 39.23, I am pretty positive you will see the Q1 low. However, if you don't do that, the target is down here still. You have to understand this can happen. And if you look at this from just a timing standpoint, again, from 2020, we'll get rid of the harmonics, not necessary now. You've got this guy coming in, but then we'll take a look at the annies, is what I call them. Everybody, I think it's 2020. There you go. So there is your NPOC as well, saying that we're now living, or not living, but we would also be living back inside this range if we break down from where that 1-to-1 we were just talking about on the AB equals CD potentially. Traditionally, that is a long setup, but it's a very low time frame pattern. So I wouldn't put any weight on it until it actually occurs and you see the reaction. So if it comes back to these levels and bounces, nothing's broken. However, it's not a great look, and you could be looking lower if it fails. You could be looking down. So that's it. That's the SPY. I haven't looked at the DXY today, so I'm gonna do that before we jump off. Dixie chicks, let's go. Yeah, so what did we talk about? We're going to take the low and bounce. What did we do? We took the low. We said it'd probably happen yesterday. You've taken the low, you're bouncing. So now we're going to look for the EQ probably coming up here around like 111, and we'll go from there. If you break through and probably take this local high here, even at 111.274. Yeah, I wouldn't say I'm bullish, but I'd be expecting the top of this channel towards like 112. And then this is actually, we describe this as a new trend, but it's actually not a trend yet. Where does this become a trend is probably about right here, because you can see that if you were just measuring lows on the move up, right? So you have a low here, you've got a low here, got a low here. This is the low that has to be taken. So this is your technical low from the prior move up off of this high right here, higher low, higher high. You still have a higher low in place. So this is just a consolidation. And I don't pattern trade, but it's very flaggy. So if it flags out and pumps up from here, you know, I mean, like I said, the technical targets of this didn't quite get met. They were very, very close. So it may take the highs here. You never know. And that could be the final leg down on something like Bitcoin or the SPX. Hopefully we say final leg. You never know. Maybe it just decade-long bear market. Yeah, so if you're looking at DXY, this is how you should be reading it. You know, if you lose this low, you're going to challenge this one, and then it's the game of it. Will 108 hold? My inclination is it comes down to 105, but you know, until this low is lost, you can't really make that presumption. So you do have to still look at 108 as potential, but we're not even seeing that right now. We're seeing this little mini trend inside of the overall trend continue. So we'll see what the resolution of this is, and that'll probably weigh heavily on Bitcoin's price, other assets that are risk on. And I think the CPI numbers are tomorrow, so that'll be kind of important to be paying attention to. If we get a bullish CPI, a lot of people are saying we're going to get one. I don't know what information they have to make you think that, but there are some people that are in that camp. So to me, that's just kind of like crossing your fingers and just going, I hope so, man. I don't know if I can take any more of this. That's probably what they're thinking. So that's all I've got, guys. I won't go on too far. Somebody did ask about Matic earlier. Just so you guys know, Matic did get covered briefly. Targets are still the same, 78 and 80 cents. No reason to not be looking for those at the current status.
Yeah, and then somebody asked about Tron, so I was just going to cover this. So Tron, I put this in the group a while back, and I haven't even looked at it since, and it's just still just chilling, right? This is a overall, like, this range has been in place since like January of this year. Okay, so this isn't the entire year of Tron. So been definitely in an consolidation, at least in this region. Right now we're holding around the low. I mean, if you zoomed in, we're slightly losing it in the short-term time frame, but you know, once again, can't necessarily puke the low right here. But once you start losing this, come back for the back test, and that area is about 5.8 cents. So literally right where we're at, you start losing that. Main area I'm looking for is down at this yearly level, and it's 4.4 cents. So, you know, decent move to the downside, I guess. They measured in a percentage base, that's like another 25%. So that's kind of like in line, like if, you know, Ethereum melts and everything drops down or whatever. But it's actually been one of the few that has not gotten completely smacked compared to everything else. Only a 14% pullback yesterday, and it's really been kind of just, you know, sporadic. So just interesting to note, I suppose. This is I haven't looked at Tron in so long. Fun fact, in 2017, you know, I only messed around with 3 coins realistically. And it was Litecoin into XRP into Tron. And that's how you know, that was my trifecta for 2017 into that year. And yeah, pretty much at the same place it was back then after the 30-cent rally, which is very interesting to note, aside with XRP being, you know, around the same point that it's been for a while, and Litecoin. So 3 of those definitely have been some bangers, I guess. But yeah, that's what I'd be looking for out of Tron. I mean, really nice high area here too. You can see how we deviated the range, ran into the yearly key level up here. Couldn't get above, got a nice rejection. At the moment, we've got an overall high to low. Golden pocket comes in right at the overall value area high. You got the yearly open. So, I mean, you got some nice levels to the upside if we hold this region. Obviously, stop loss below the low in attempts to take anything higher. But aside from that, looking lower down to this 4.4 cents at least, and possibly even down a little bit further. So that's what I'll be looking for Tron. All right.
Yeah, Matt said look at it on the weekly. He says a giant descending triangle.
Oh, man, is it going to be an FTT?
That would be, you were like, it hasn't gotten hit too hard yet. I'm like, that's because it's.
I know, that's what I always hold my breath when I say stuff like that, because it's like, that's
that.
always the one that's going to get hit.
That's a good spot. That's a giant descending triangle.
Yeah,
it's pretty clean. You don't even got to put lines on it. You can just see exactly what that is. So that kind of just adds to it. And again, we talk about not being pattern traders, guys, but at the same time, like something like a descending triangle is actually
it's a cup and handle, boys. I don't know what you're talking about. That is about to break up.
Every cup and handle is inside of a or not every cup and handle, but every inverse head and shoulders has a cup and handle. Just so you guys know, that's actually a rule you can put down.
That's a rule. Yeah, nice spot, Matthew. Good old twin branch. It looks like FTT straight up.
I'm sure like a lot of the people that are like in coins that are like, oh, they just haven't really dumped yet. This is a strong coin. Like if the market takes a tumble lower, I bet they all have topping patterns like this, where it's just longer distribution periods. And that will probably lead to a big move. I imagine that these don't get as much volume That's why they haven't broke down. There's just not as many people selling them because, I mean, if you're holding Tron, you've probably just been holding it forever. I don't know anyone that even talks about TRX anymore or buys it, so it is what it is.
Word. Perfect. Well, that's a nice spot to leave it on. Good old classic Tron. Hope you all enjoyed this update. I feel like I feel like we bring a nice amount of value here, a little bit different perspectives, slightly integrated with each other at the same time. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. We do this every single day, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern. We try for it. Today is Wednesday, so every Wednesday and Sunday, we do an exclusive members-only market update in our Leading Crypto Discord server. So if you're interested in joining that, we're going to cover even more things than we went over today, which is hard to believe, but go into pretty good detail. We have exclusive live trading sessions like Max and Magic. Actually, we went almost 24 hours straight, it feels like yesterday, trading the volatility. So
on that
what's
note,
that?
after this stream, I'm going to go live. So after this stream for the members, we're going to go live again. See if we can take
that low is going to get taken probably.
Exactly. So let's go live and take the trade if it's given. So
yeah, fair.
Perfect. So yeah, if you're interested in joining us for that, be sure to join the Discord server below. Aside from that, we'll see you all tomorrow on CPI Day, which will be another fun one. I can only imagine. So till next time, everybody, enjoy your morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are in this beautiful world, and we'll see you next time. Cheers.